It all started with a sunset. Not the kind of sunset you'd find in a postcard, but one of those unsettling, fiery reds that paints the sky a little too brightly, like it's giving you a warning. I was standing on the deck of my house, holding a coffee that had already gone cold, watching the mountain range in the distance. It was supposed to be peaceful up here in Serenity Peak, a little oasis in the middle of nowhere. I had spent years building this house with my own hands, poured sweat, blood, and a hell of a lot of cash into it. But that night, things were about to change forever. The fire, they said, was still a few miles away, but I could already smell the smoke. It wasn't thick, but it was enough to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And then, just as I was thinking about the worst that could happen, the worst showed up, not in the form of flames, but in the form of a mailbox. Yeah, you heard that right, a mailbox. You see, I don't just own a house up here. I own an excavation company, a small one, but big enough to give me access to some pretty heavy machinery. Bulldozers, backhoes, the kind of stuff that makes mountains move, or, in my case, it was supposed to be the kind of stuff that helped me move in and out of this mountain range in an emergency. This place was a bit off the grid, but when I bought the land, there was this dirt road at the back. Barely a road at all, actually more like an old logging path that barely showed up on the maps. But to me, it was perfect. It was my emergency exit, my escape route, if anything went south. The place where I could run if things went bad. And things were about to go bad. I could feel it in my gut, like a distant rumble in the air. The fire was getting closer. But my so-called escape route? Blocked. That's right. Blocked by a pile of rocks. Imported granite boulders, carefully arranged, placed by none other than Carol, the HOA president. Yeah, you heard that right again. Carol. The woman was a nightmare in pastel tracksuits. Every time I saw her, I wanted to punch something. And what she did next, it made me want to punch her. See, Carol had decided that the evacuation route was an eyesore. According to her, it wasn't harmonious with the VY sound of Serenity Peak. So what did she do? She turned my emergency exit into a meditation corner, complete with flowers, river rocks. And this is the Kikera wooden plaque that read Serenity Peak Meditation Corner. I remember standing there, jaw slack with disbelief, as she smiled proudly, holding her tiny pink watering can, acting like she'd just invented fire or something. This wasn't a dirt patch to Carol. This was a place for her to impose her personal brand of beauty on the neighborhood. This was her kingdom, and she was the queen, making sure everyone followed her rule. And when I told her what that dirt path actually was, a VY escape route for half a dozen families, including mine, she waved me off. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Jack. The county has a perfectly fine evacuation plan, she said with that condescending tone I knew all too well. And that's when I snapped. I wasn't angry, I was, but not like before. It wasn't just about a flower garden anymore. It was about life and death. It was about protecting my family, my neighbors, and my community. But Carol? Carol didn't care. She was too busy keeping her rose bushes perfect to think about anything real. So, I had to take matters into my own hands. I'll tell you something about people like Carol. They think they're untouchable. But there comes a point when you just can't stand it anymore. And this was my breaking point. That's when I started calling people. First, the county. After about 30 minutes of phone trees and automated voices, I finally got a live person. The woman on the other end was bored, like she'd been reading the same script for years. Sorry, sir. The road you're talking about is private property, she said, like that was supposed to be some kind of answer. I mean, I get it, paperwork and rules. But this wasn't a paperwork problem. This was a life and death situation. Next, I called the sheriff's office. Deputy Miller answered, sounded like he was 12, and promised to get back to me when he could. The fire was getting closer. The sirens were starting to wail in the distance, and all I could think was, why is this so hard? Why was it so hard for people to understand that I just wanted to save my neighborhood? But bureaucracy was doing its job, and it was slow. Too slow. But then, I got a glimmer of hope. Captain Rodriguez from the local fire station took my call. He didn't waste any time. Yeah, that's a bonehead move, he said when I told him what happened. But then, just like the rest of them, he told me his hands were tied. Without an active emergency, he couldn't just take action. So, I was on my own. The next day, the fire made its move. The wind picked up, and the flames crept closer to our mountain. The news was showing all the red areas on the map, and I knew it was only a matter of time before we were ordered to evacuate. I couldn't sit around waiting for some miracle. So, I made a call. I called Dave. Dave's been with me for years. He's the guy who operates my bulldozer. He's an old-timer, and when I told him what I needed, he didn't hesitate. "Is it legal?" he asked. I told him, gloriously so. He didn't even wait for a second. "I'll get my boots." Next, I called Mikey. Mikey's young, full of energy, and let's be honest, a bit of a drama queen. When I told him the plan, his voice cracked with excitement. "Are we going against the man?" he asked. "You're damn right," I said. "Get your phone and meet me at the shop in 20. The plan was simple. Go up to the road, confront Carol one last time, and if she didn't move, bulldoze the rocks. I knew it was risky. Hell, I knew it was probably illegal. But at that point, I didn't care. It was time for action. We drove up the mountain, a convoy of chaos. The air was thick with smoke, and the sun was nothing more than a bloody orange disk. People were already levying, their cars packed with valuables, pets, anything they could grab. And there she was, Carol, standing in front of her precious meditation corner like she was guarding the gates of heaven. She had her phone out, filming us, ready for battle. I stopped my Jeep about 30 feet from her, and Dave parked the bulldozer behind me. Mikey screeched to a stop in his chase truck, phone already out. It was a standoff. I walked up to Carol, calm, collected, and done with this nonsense. "For the last time, Carol," I said, "you're blocking an evacuation route. You have 3 minutes to move." She laughed, scoffing at me like I was the one out of line. "You're insane," she said, dialing 911. "He's threatening me. He's got a weapon of mass destruction." Dave, who'd been leaning against the bulldozer, just shrugged. "She gives old Bessie here too much credit," he said. "She's more of a tool of localized, aggressive restructuring." We gave her those 3 minutes. And when that time hit, Dave fired up the bulldozer. The noise was deafening. The ground shook. Carol's carefully laid rocks, gone. Her flowers, gone. That plaque that said Serenity Peak Meditation Corner, shattered and buried under tons of dirt and rock. It was over in less than a minute. I didn't need to say anything. We made our point. And then, just as the dust settled, I saw the flashing lights of a sheriff's patrol car skidding up the road. Deputy Miller, all self-righteous indignation, hopped out, ready to arrest me. But Sergeant Reynolds, the older guy, took one look at the scene, at the cleared path, at the fire coming our way, and then looked at me. He didn't even flinch. "You know this looks bad, right?" he said. "But what looks worse?" I replied, "A flower garden or people dying because they can't escape?" He sighed, a deep, tired sigh, and then he walked over to the radio. "BADVY said," he said, "the secondary access road at Serenity Peak is now open." And just like that, the fire trucks started coming up the path. One by one, the neighbors used the route, honking their horns in gratitude as they passed. A week later, Carol resigned from the HOA, and a new president took over. And that's when the calls started coming. The new president called me, asking for a bid to properly grade and widen the evacuation route. I had to laugh. Bill, the new president, was practically begging. "We've got a federal grant," he said. "We'd like to hire your company." And you know what? I said yes. I called Dave and Mikey. We went up there again, but this time, there was a contract. There was a check. There were no obstacles. Just a cleared path, ready for whatever came next. And this time, there was a sign. Emergency evacuation route. Keep clear. It's funny how things work out, isn't it? One moment you're fighting for your community, and the next, you're the guy they're calling to fix the mess. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being the guy who bulldozed through the nonsense to make sure people got out alive. So what do you think? Was I wrong? Was I justified in what I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did the HOA overstep? Or was I just a little too quick with the bulldozer? I'd love to hear your thoughts.